Hello and welcome to another edition of Coffee with the Council. I'm Mike Reed.
And I'm Kimmy Podgorsak.
We are legislative staffers and communication staffers with the Buffalo Common Council, and we are here joined today by Lovejoy District Councilmember Bryan Bollman. Councilmember, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job with this. I'm glad to have Coffee with a Councilman. It's great to be able to get our message out to the residents, so thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, for the kind words.
Yes,
Let's get right into it, Councilmember. Just recently, the council had something on the agenda that kind of stirred up some questions in the city of Buffalo. Could you tell us what this letter that you signed on with 3 other council members is called and what it's calling on from the administration and commissioners?
Yeah, it's a very important letter. The council is coming out strong this legislative session. We're starting right out and we want to get answers for our residents, right? Was at a community meeting and residents are paying attention to what we're doing, right? I put forth some resolution regarding a warm-up act, and we'll talk more about that later, but other council members, and I've signed on to things like the emergency manager, the fleet manager. There's a committee that's supposed to meet, that's supposed to talk about all different agencies meeting and talking about emergency preparedness. We want to know where those things are at. Very important that we know where those things are at as we're on the verge of winter. And we're about to come into a season. We just had one like no other with the historic blizzard, with the storm in November. Those were bad. We had, serious issues with our residents, and we want to know that we're going to perform better. A lot of the things that we put forward were to address gaps that we saw. We invested in the capital budget and a lot of different equipment. We want to see if that equipment's coming in when it's coming in, because there's a big turnaround with that equipment, right? A long time. Some of these fire vehicles that we're ordering take 2-3 years to come in, and they're very expensive. So we're trying to get updates on that, and just overall emergency preparedness as a whole. So that's what the Where Are We At letter is.
Yeah. So are you able to tell us a little bit more about the emergency coordinator versus the fleet manager, how those roles would, work out?
Yeah, so the emergency coordinator is something that the council felt would be very important to have. So it's overall coordination between multiple different agencies, Erie County, the state, Homeland Security, different departments within City Hall. One thing that prevents snow removal sometimes, especially my district, is parking issues, right? So we're trying to work with parking and DPW so they could coordinate efforts to remove some of these vehicles that are stuck in the streets that are essentially blocking our plows from getting through the road. So emergency coordination as a whole will help fill some of those gaps, answer some of those questions. We want to make sure that planning's happening. I can guarantee you that I'm going to get a call from Miss Gwen on St. Mary's about her island street that's not properly plowed every year. And some of those situations are avoidable. We allow those streets to get so bad, it's almost impossible to plow at that point until it melts. They become rutted and iced up. So we're trying to prevent those things. Kaisertown, I know I'm going to get calls about dead end streets. Lovejoy, just plowing some of our main roads. I could remember back to the November storm, there was a semi truck delivering to 7-Eleven and it was stuck in the middle of the road preventing traffic. So those are the things that I don't want to see this year. I want a better response from the department, and this is not finger pointing at all. We're coming to the table. We want to work with you. We want to solve these problems and get answers for the residents, because I know I'm going to see them. I'm very visible. I'm out in my community and I'm happy to do that. But when you're visible, a lot of the pressure becomes on you. But I don't run the Department of Public Works. I don't run the parking department. So we want to work effectively and coordinate together.
I think that's a really great point you brought up, is that this is not finger pointing. This is like a request for collaboration. We're here to work with you. Our residents are calling us nonstop, asking where stuff is. Another component of this letter is a resolution that Councilmember Wyatt put forth last week at the council meeting, was for the snow plan to be moved from November 1st to April 1st. You signed on as a co-sponsor for that resolution. Talk a little bit more about why that is important to move that snow plan date up.
Yeah,
April 1st.
Right. It's the budget when we buy equipment, and it's very important to have those discussions when we're planning for the year, planning the equipment we need. We'd be conversing with the fleet manager who would tell us, we need an extra high lift here or a snow plow there, or police vehicles, fire vehicles, because those things are, and there are more vehicles coming, right? I don't want the public to think that we have not planned and that we have not ordered more. In the capital budget, there were a lot of vehicles, and we used some of the ARP dollars to get fun equipment as well. So there are things coming, but we want updates when they'll be in effective use for fighting snow. So overall, we're just trying to get some answers from the department. No finger pointing. We're working at the table with each other, and that's when it needs to be, and that's what it will be from the council's end.
Yeah. And then, talking about another resolution that you put forth, Warm Up Act. Tell us, how did you come up with this, and what are the next steps with that?
Yeah, the Hennepin Center in Lovejoy was a good spot, actually, a good location for it to be the emergency warming shelter during the blizzard. However, the power went out and residents were basically had nowhere to seek refuge. And there were only 3 warming shelters, I believe, in the city of Buffalo, but potentially throughout Erie County that I knew of. And so one of them were down. It was in my neighborhood, and I would have loved for that to be a resource. Actually, one of our churches had to step up, and they became effectively a warming shelter. Spirit of Truth Urban Ministries, Pastor Al, got a lot of publicity on that because he did a great job and helped 100 residents through that storm. So really proud that he's a great partner in the community, but I feel like government should also be stepping in and offering those resources. So the Warm Up Act is essentially saying identify locations within neighborhoods. I would love to see them in every neighborhood, right? Especially in my district. So find that school, that community center, that senior center. That's a good, valuable resource. Then back it up with an emergency backup generator, and that's exactly what we called for. I believe the generators were budgeted in the past budget, so I'm hoping that when Department of Public Works comes to the table, they have some generators, and that we're moving forward already with this plan because we are already very close to winter. So I want to see that become a resource. We also talked about potentially having some cots, some water, some resources for residents. Pre-planned, potentially having staff pre-positioned prior, if we know a big storm's coming. All that is a greater emergency plan, right? What if there's something other than snow that we need emergency planning for? So that's what we're talking about. That's what we're trying to drive answers on. And I'm not saying that we don't have answers. I'm just saying we haven't had the follow-up yet. We were working, I'm an education chairman too, and we were working with the Buffalo Public Schools, and we got a quick response from them on the Warm Up Act. Really, they had 5 locations that they're ready to move forward with. They came to our education committee, and they identified central points throughout the city, and they're very close, but they do want the cooperation of the Public Works Department.
I was going to ask, since you are chair of the education committee, what have you heard from schools and community centers? Are they all on board? Are they ready to? Are they ready to go?
Yeah, it sounds like the schools are very much ready to roll, and I just think it takes a little more coordination between the departments. So we'd love to see them up and running. We'd love to see some of our centers, and I'm hopeful that that's the plan because this is so important. We need to make sure we're preventing situations where residents are at risk. We need to find places where we can have residents seek refuge because you remember the blizzard, you could barely walk down the street. So we have to make these locations close for our residents to be able to get to.
And we'll be sure to follow up on all of these that's coming up. I know it's coming up in Civil Service Committee this week. But we'll be sure to have you on next time to talk about what happened in committee and with the Warm Up Act. Yep,
and I did want to put a shameless plug in for another resolution I'm working on in emergency planning. Really is the building. The City Hall is an old building, and I'm thinking we could use more technology to make it safer for our residents. We had a recent fire drill, and it was actually real. It was electrical fire in the elevator, and so that jammed up some situations of being able to get people who have mobility issues out of the building. It was actually very scary because you didn't know if it was real or if it was a drill. We do drills, but I think there's things we could do better mapping, making sure the staff and the employees in the building are fully trained on what's available to them. Point people like fire marshals. I know we have them to the employees. I've worked in the building for 15 years. I can't tell you necessarily on every floor who is and who is ours. So those are answers and things I want answers on as well.
We'll be sure to keep you at home updated too on all this and more the council members working on. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Joy Kuebler from the Buffalo Niagara River Land Trust to talk about Houghton Park.
with the council. We're joined by Lovejoy District Councilmember Bryan Bollman and Joy Kuebler, who is a landscape architect and also a board member of the Buffalo-Niagara River Land Trust. Thank you for joining us today.
It's great to be here.
I understand you've been doing a lot of exciting work at Houghton Park. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, I would love to tell you about all of the things that we have going on at Houghton Park. So the City of Buffalo has received American Rescue Plan funds to do 8 park master plans, and Houghton Park is one of those master plans. So my company, Joy Kuebler, landscape architect, is the prime consultant leading that master plan park effort. But I also wear another hat, as you mentioned. I'm a board member of the Buffalo-Niagara River Land Trust. And in the past year, the Land Trust has become the perpetual steward of the conservation area, which means that forever that area will be conserved as a natural area, and that the Land Trust actually supports and will keep in perpetuity that is a conservation area for the community.
That's great. And, I just want to say Joy is doing a great job. She has the entire Kaisertown community involved in this park project. They're excited about the conservation easement area, but also the recreation area. I'm excited as a council member for the district. I grew up playing in Houghton Park, so love to see the dollars being invested. It's been a long time since dollars have been put in that park. Some of it will go to infrastructure things. You could tell us a little bit about that, Joy, but also the walking area, the potential to connect to the Buffalo River. Very exciting thing, so we're just so happy Joy is involved. And you should have seen this past weekend, so many people just want to see their park be better, and I'm so happy to have you.
Yes.
Yeah, what was this past weekend? Tell us a little bit about this event that happened.
Yeah, so we called it Nature Inspiration Day. So as we were earlier in the year, we also had an opportunity to work with the community very closely on creating a vision plan for the conservation area in particular through the Land Trust. And one of the things that we heard a lot from the community was how the previous concrete and rubble debris that had been dumped throughout the conservation area was really limiting access for safe walking trails, right? So people want to be able to walk through that natural area, and those concrete outcroppings, if you will, almost as if they were rock, but they're not, were really causing a lot of challenges for mobility and access in a really safe way. So they wanted that really high on their priority list. So the Land Trust, we found a grant through the National Recreation and Parks Association and Bobcat Equipment. Right, so people from the community were like, "Let me back there. I've got a Bobcat." Like, we can't do that. We can't let you just back there with the Bobcat, but we can let Bobcat back there, right? Mm-hmm. So we were awarded a $50,000 grant, which will go a long way to helping those areas right around the trails to be much more safe and accessible. And part of that grant was to do a community event. So because we wanted to really showcase that this funding was to support the conservation area, we created a Nature Inspiration Day. So we partnered with our local library branch and New York State Parks. So State Parks brought things like skulls and animal pelts and some information on tracks and how to identify various creatures in our natural area. The library brought down all sorts of incredible books for kids and adults, and actually allowed people to check out those books right from the park, which was amazing. And then we had Western New York Book Arts. And they came down to make customized cards that said Houghton Park, Nature Inspiration, and then people could pick and choose the different templates that they wanted and make their own card to take home. Then we had things like making kaleidoscopes with native flowers out of toilet paper tubes. I mean, we pulled out all the crafts. And we had about 45 people, groups and families, come throughout the morning, and they also got to go on some walking tours through the conservation area. We had an ecologist join us so that we could really have some conversations about what does invasive species management look like, right? The community thinks we can just go in there and rip it all out and it'll be gone. And that's really not how invasive plants work. So we had a great conversation about that. And then also, how do we introduce native plants back into that space? So it was a fantastic opportunity to both experience nature close up and for the community to kind of come out and meet one another and be in the space and be in that park in a new kind of way.
and leave it to Joy to make something like Japanese knotweed, creative experience, and she made it a little game with her, whatever.
Yeah, we were
She gets very
painting. We
creative.
were painting with Japanese knotweed, right? This time of the year, there's not much more that you can do with it. So,
Councilmember Bollman, I know that community development and community engagement is a top priority for your office. So, how special is it to have someone like Joy on this project?
Extremely special, and we're talking about Houghton Park, but look at the master planning throughout all of our parks, and you talked about community engagement. I have been visible in the communities, right? I'm out at block clubs through our staff. We're at about 20 to 30 block clubs or events every week. We're engaging with these residents, and what they're telling us is they want their community centers, their senior centers in better shape. They want to see the parks. So having these master plans moving forward, it builds the blueprint for us to be able to move forward and secure more funds and deliver for the residents. So it's so exciting. And then you bring in Joy, who's able to get the community involved even greater. State parks, that it's great having the state park group in Houghton Park over the past weekend. Private businesses like Bobcat, it's just bringing it all together. It really feels like we're going to be able to do something great here. There's already dollars secured. We're working to secure more dollars. So really excited about having great partners like Joy.
Yeah. The master plan is actually very interesting because it requested that we create sort of a 20-year vision of where do we want to be in 20 years. So we've got some goals in mind. But it also identified that we have about $1.4 million to spend on this first phase. And so we're looking at sort of this combination of infrastructure and what I kind of call twinkle lights, right? And if we only spend those dollars on the underground improvements, right, there isn't anything tangible for the community to say, like, that's mine, and I rallied for that improvement. Or our kids can now safely play flag football in the park. And our new Americans who have an interest in something like cricket can also come to the park. So finding the balance, right? So that 1.4 million will be working with both the residents and the city to identify where those infrastructure dollars are best spent, and then where are the twinkle, right? What adds the life and the spark and the championship, so that we're really supporting that we can have both of those.
That's a great point too, because it's not the fun stuff, but the infrastructure, but it can lead to the fun stuff too. So like in Houghton Park. Consistent complaint over the years was the playground is always full of water in fall. It rains and it's flooded. The infrastructure allowing that water to drain will help. We have a veterans monument area, and that gets really wet, and they wanted to put statues there over the years, but we really couldn't. So fixing that infrastructure will actually allow us the capability to do those things. So, not the funnest thing to talk about drain lines, but it will lead to good things too.
Right.
I was going to ask, this is still very early on in the process, but what has the community said that they initially want to see? What working with you and the council member, what's everyone been saying about it?
Walking. They want to walk. They want to walk everywhere, and not just walk around the little perimeter that is around the picnic grove, right? Which is in terrible disrepair. So they want to walk there safely, but they want to be able to walk all the way up to Clinton Street from the parking lot, right, on a variety of trails, and then into the conservation area in a really safe way. They love that nature area, but they want to feel comfortable in there.
And people walk it every day too. We have really avid walkers and some joggers around that track. So I really want to fix that infrastructure. I heard ice rink. Do we know that's tangible? I don't know. It might take a lot of maintenance. It's fun to dream for that park that used to have a ice rink.
Right.
Back in the day, I actually talked to Danny. He's a Kaisertown resident. He used to work for the Parks Department, and he maintained it. He said it is a lot of work. So we don't know if we'll get there, but there's a shelter house, bringing the pool back to life potentially. We have our splash pad, maybe some improvements there. Definitely the walking path years ago. Ever since I started, they wanted a walking path from Clinton to connect all the way through the track. I love that idea. More lighting, more safety, security. I'm very interested in that. Even I have some district funds that I allocated to the Buffalo Police camera room, and we're trying to get lighting and cameras. So overall experience at Houghton Park and all of our parks should be great. They're things that make our neighborhoods great. So really interested in seeing that happen.
Yeah, it is so exciting to see residents excited, about this. As you mentioned, you grew up there, so it's exciting to see you and future generations enjoy it.
Yeah.
What is the timeline, Joy?
So the timeline for the American Rescue Funds ensures that we must have something in construction by the end of 2024. and that we must be complete with that construction by, I think, middle of 2025. So it's an aggressive schedule for sure. But we've been, engagement has looked like being at the Bailey Clinton Market, being in the park during Slow Roll, and having a community come to us at the Autumnwood Senior Center. But it also looks like going door to door and sit and have a drink at the bar, which I did, and go to the pierogi restaurant and talk to the woman who owns a little Polish grocery store. So it has it's a diverse experience of engagement, and we really bring that. And we think it's really important to our projects that we talk to a wide variety of stakeholders where they already are. So we've had great conversations with kids and young people about the value of double rims on the basketball court so that they're stronger and they're more accurate for them to play, and families to kind of run around in a secure space and really to run on the lawns in a way that's really safe, right? We've got a lot of rutting and soil compression over time.
I think it's safe to say that this project is in great hands.
Yes,
with
Yes.
Joy.
for sure.
Joy, we want to thank you for joining us on Coffee with the Council. Thank you for telling us about it. We'll be sure to have you back on,
Awesome.
following up on
Give
the
you an
whole park
update
project.
and kind of see where we are.
Back on. Well, we want to thank Joy again for coming on today's show, and we'll be back with Community.
Welcome back to Coffee with the Council. We're joined by Lovejoy District Councilmember Bryan Bollman. We are on segment 3, my favorite, community. Councilmember, I understand there's a lot to discuss, a lot of tea.
Yeah.
Let's start with the backpack giveaway.
Yeah, a lot of tea in the Lovejoy District, and we keep moving, and we really are trying hard for the residents. We did a backpack giveaway, which is really exciting for the students going back to school, right? There's a lot of things. It's a busy time for parents and students, even my own kids, just getting them back into that routine after summer. But it's a great way to get them excited about school, giving them backpacks. We partner with the Teacher's Desk, which is a great non-profit agency, and they fill these backpacks up. It's wonderful. There's this big binder with folders, paper, pens, everything really you need for the school year. So it's great to offer that to our residents, to our families. We partner with our block clubs. So one thing I really wanted to make sure is I'm helping the residents in most need in the Lovejoy District, right? So we talk to the block club presidents, then they're going on their street finding the families that need the help. We partner with our schools, School 43, the charter schools, and all of those combined really build a nice effort from our office to be able to deliver to the residents, So schools, non-for-profits, block clubs, and residents as a whole, we put it out there too.
Yeah, and as the chair of the education committee and a dad too, this is extra special that you can give back to the community and, see the
100%.
impact.
Yeah, 100%. And these kids are in need and they're excited to start their school year off. So we give them a little push in that direction. And then partnering with the schools, if a student comes in without a backpack, right, they have a couple extra to be able to hand out. So it's just a overall nice thing. And as education chairman, we're trying to help every student out there, and we have also put a lot of effort into making sure and making our voices heard as far as safety and security within the schools. That's something I'm passionate about, so should be a good start to the school year for our students.
Yeah. So next up, we recently had the 26th annual Lovejoy Picnic.
Yeah.
This was over at Fontana's Grove. It was a super exciting night. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, 26th annual, so it's started before my time, but it's a really nice event to drive community engagement. Residents from all over the district come out. And it's exciting for me to be able to see them engaging with each other. A lot of times I represent over 30,000 residents, right? So we're getting the phone calls. We're deeply engaged with the different neighborhoods from the Valley to Kaisertown to Lovejoy to Schiller Park. But getting them all in one room and they're kind of sharing trade secrets between the block clubs and just talking about what's working in the neighborhoods, the challenges they have. Those are things that really, as a council member, you want to do. You want to bring the block clubs and residents together and show them the overall greater community in Lovejoy District, but also, you know, as a whole in the city of Buffalo, you know, we want to start branching out and building and, you know, doing things with other districts as well. So district picnic is a lot of fun. We feed them. We have some great DJ and a nice little basket raffle. And it's just a nice event. You get them out and have a good time. You get to talk to them, interact, and, you know, over 200 people, I would say, came out to this. So it's a great event for the Lovejoy District. We'll continue to do it as we move forward.
And you mentioned all across your district came to this. What are people saying about the Lovejoy District? Are they seeing all the improvement and great work you're doing?
Yeah, think about the different segments that you know, we talked about. So people are seeing their parks, master plans for their parks getting redeveloped, so they're envisioning great things. They're talking about their community centers, their senior centers. One thing I've tried to do is drive more activity in those centers to make you know, places where people could recreate and go and have fun. So we try to involve our senior buildings, right? We have privately owned buildings, but we want to drive them out too, because you have 200-300 seniors in those buildings, and I always like try to make sure that they're moving and they're getting out and they're not just staying in their homes. So having something like the picnic is special to get them out, get them moving, and have something for them to look forward to, truly.
Yeah, and then talking about community centers, I heard there's some exciting news surrounding the George K. Arthur Center.
I'm really passionate about this one. I'm so excited to talk about it too. So when I ran for office the first time in 2019, I'm walking streets in Schiller Park, and it was a constant theme. You start knocking on doors and you start hearing the same thing. You're like, okay, this is really something I need to set a priority on. And it's the George K. Arthur Community Center right on Genesee Street in Schiller Park. Right now it is a community center. It's active. We have a cafeteria. We have some rooms to recreate and some office space, but they do not really have a gymnasium in. So we're looking at building a gymnasium off the back of the building and having a really great place, because right now the kids have to leave the neighborhood in order to be able to really have a nice quality recreational experience. So we're looking at state-of-the-art facility. It's a little more expensive than I had planned, but it's important, so we're going to keep fighting for that.
And speaking of kids, you know, we're in the fall season. Can you tell us what's coming up in the Lovejoy District coming up in October?
Yeah, there's a lot. Obviously, Halloween is on the agenda. We have a very exciting experience in Kaisertown, right? It's a Beggar's Night, and some people don't even really realize how big it is. It's one of the biggest in the country, and a lot of people don't even know what it is other than within the Buffalo community. But the night before Halloween, the community comes out, and so over the years, I've partnered with different businesses in the community. We work with Buffalo Games. Acme Cabinet is a new business on Clinton Street, so we'll put candy and bags together, little puzzles, little games for them, and it's a great experience. You'd be surprised how many people hit that table. We hand out about 1,000 bags every year, so it's great. It's a big event. The community's out. We invite the peacemakers, make it sure it's a safe experience, along with the A District Police. They do a good job of having the extra patrols around. It's something that, like, even families that grew up in the neighborhood, they'll come back and kind of experience it too, because they know Beggar's Night is Kaisertown is no joke. We also have Lovejoy does it on the regular day, right, on Halloween, so they're active too, you know, and they over the past years, I'm not 100% they're doing it this year, but they've done a nice parade ending at the Hennepin Center with a really big event. So a lot of activities for the families in the Lovejoy District.
So Beggar's Night, October 30th. Correct.
With the night before Halloween,
Yep.
let's say
And
yes. So we'll say yes.
Also, we'll make sure to put it up on the council members' Facebook and Instagram as well.
Yep. So check our social medias. We're also trying to get the newsletter out.
Yep.
So if you ever want the newsletter mailed to your house, just give us a call on our socials or our emails, and we will send to your house, because we're trying to really communicate more and get our message out and all the things we're doing within our office.
And we'll be sure to show all the information, including the council members, office number, and socials, with you at home. Councilor, I think that wraps it up for today on Coffee with the Council.
This was a great one. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for
so
joining
much.
us. Thank you. We'll do a cheers to
Cheers.
wrap it up. Thank you, sir.
you.
Thank you for tuning in.